He was a prince, a slave, a warrior, and a sultan, the Mamluk who occupied the throne of Egypt for only 1 year. Despite the brevity of his rule, he left a deep mark on history, thanks to his decisive victory over the Mongols at the Battle of Ain Jalut. Saif Qutuz is more than just a name in history books. He is a symbol of resilience, courage, and determination. His story inspires generations and reminds us of the importance of defending civilization and heritage. It is a tale of astonishing ascent, demonstrating how willpower and determination can overcome the most challenging circumstances. From a Mamluk slave to a sultan ruling an empire, Qutuz proved that anything is possible when one is determined to achieve it. His name will forever be linked to one of the greatest victories in Islamic history. Mahmud ibn Mamdud, or as he is known, Saif Qutuz, was born in the early 7th century of the Islamic calendar in Khwarezm, the heart of Central Asia, into a royal family. His father was a cousin of Sultan Jalal al-Din Khwarezm Shah, and his mother was the Sultan's sister. However, his childhood was abruptly turned upside down when the Mongol armies invaded his homeland, turning him into a captive. He was destined to be transferred from a palace to a slave market. And so, a young prince became a slave, his childhood sold in the slave markets. He became a commodity, bought and sold. The young Qutuz was captured and sold as a slave, carried far from his homeland by the devastating Tatar invasions. He was sold in slave markets, from hand to hand, and after a long and painful journey, he arrived in Egypt where he was bought by a Mamluk commander. Thus began a legendary ascent that would culminate in his leading the decisive battle against the most formidable and terrifying armies of his time. In the world of the Mamluks, where blood mixed with dust and power with slavery, Qutuz grew up under the patronage of Prince Aybak. He was one of thousands of children brought from the far corners of the earth to be tools in the hands of rulers. But Qutuz was different from the other Mamluks. In his eyes there was a glimmer of sadness, and in his heart a longing for his origins and homeland, which had been stolen from him. Yet he realized that his fate was tied to Egypt and that his primary allegiance should be to Islam, so he strove to serve it, regardless of whether he was a slave or a prince. In the bustling heart of Cairo, amidst the crowds of markets and mosques, Qutuz, like other Mamluks, received a comprehensive military education. He memorized the Quran, learned the arts of chivalry, and studied the secrets of war. But he was not content with that. He also read history and philosophy and pondered the affairs of men. Thus, he developed a unique perspective on the world and the role of Islam in building civilizations. He became a brave warrior and a skilled commander, capable of leading armies and achieving decisive victories. Amidst the political and military struggles that Egypt witnessed in the 13th century, Qutuz's name emerged as one of the most prominent Mamluk knights. He participated in repelling the Seventh Crusade, which marked the last attempt by the Crusaders to conquer Egypt. This victory was a turning point in the history of the region, as it weakened the Crusaders and paved the way for the rise of the Mamluk state. After the death of King al-Soli, Shajarat al-Dur assumed power, but faced strong opposition from some of the princes. She decided to marry Aybak, one of her late husband's most prominent Mamluks, to strengthen her authority and ensure the stability of the country. However, in the world of the Mamluks, where life was too short to tell, Qutuz's rise to power was not paved with roses. It was a bloody path marked by many violent events. After participating in the assassination of the powerful military commander Uktai for the benefit of his master Aybak, the rapid turn of events denied any of them stability. He found himself entangled in the game of power and the struggle for authority once more. When the disagreements between Ibak and his wife Shajarat al-Durr widened, conspiracy that ended with her killing her husband. After that, new conflicts erupted among the Mamluks, ending with the death of Shajarat al-Durr herself, allowing Qutuz to firmly establish himself on the throne. He became the de facto ruler after becoming the regent for the young sultan, and he began to settle scores with his enemies. On the one hand, he eliminated the remnants of his rival's influence, and on the other hand, he crushed anyone who tried to rebel against the throne. Qutuz knew well that the throne could only be secured through decisive action. While he was busy securing his rule, the Mongol threat loomed on the horizon. He deposed the young sultan. He did not hesitate to eliminate anyone who threatened unity, even if they were his closest allies, or to compromise with his bitterest enemies in order to achieve the unity of the Mamluks. He pardoned Qutuz, the commander of the Bari Mamluks, who was his bitter rival, and never forgot that Qutuz had killed his master Oktai. However, Qutuz was compelled to do so because he knew very well that a decisive battle was coming. The fate of Egypt and Syria hung by a thread, and defeat at the hands of the Mongols would mean the end of Islamic civilization. He decided to face the enemy with all his courage, without paying attention to personal glory. Thus, the Battle of Ain Jalut took place on the 26th of Ramadan, 658 AH, corresponding to the 3rd of December 1260 AD. It became a turning point in the history of the region, where right triumphed over wrong, and faith over disbelief. However, Qutuz did not enjoy his victory for long, as he was assassinated by Qutuz, who never forgot his vengeance, less than 2 months after Ain Jalut, while they were on their way back to Egypt. Thus ended the extraordinary life of a man who rose from obscurity to the throne, to rule Egypt and Syria. Qutuz was an ambitious man who knew no fatigue, and a decisive one who showed no mercy to his enemies. His defeat of the Mongols was the culmination of his eventful career, and his name was forever etched in the annals of history.